Hi, I'm Rich Shield, CEO of MindDoodle. We've recently added some agile functionality to MindDoodle, so today I'm going to show you how it works. We've also added templates, so this is the new template section. There's various categories and you can switch between them. You can even create your own team templates if you want to. So I'm going to pretend I'm organising a conference. So the way templates work is that it gives you a starting point. So rather than have a blank canvas, you've already got a mind map in place. Obviously you can delete things like normal, so I may not want this one. I just go and click delete and there you go. But really this video is about Agile. So let's pretend I want to start adding some tasks. So I've done all my thinking, I've created a mind map, and then I don't just want a pretty diagram, I actually want to use this for managing the project. So I click on the icon for detailed view like normal. There's now a new tab called tasks. And I can come in here and literally just click the plus button and say new task. Put my initials in. And there you go, it's created a task. This is great if you're in a meeting because you can very quickly just add tasks and then come back later on to add the detail. Something that's important to explain is that we still have our accordion on the left hand side here, which allows you to switch between the various different ideas in the mind map. And if you can see, as I go to a different idea, there's nothing here. That's because tasks are related to ideas. Anyway, the idea is that once you've created your task, you can click again on the pencil icon and you can add more detail. So you can add some notes, blah de blah. You can give it an estimate, so maybe it's just going to take me 10 hours. I might have done 5 hours already, so it's 5 hours remaining. I can say what type of task it is, so I'm going to say this one is a new feature. All these types of tasks can be configured as well, so you can change it to something that's more appropriate. This is kind of set up for developers, but it could be for anything. And you also have priorities, so you have low, medium, high, and nuclear, because nuclear makes me laugh. It's a team base as ever, so you have a list of all the people on your team. So I'll assign this task to myself, and then this is the actual idea it's related to, so it's content. But if I've made a mistake, I can come in here and say maybe actually this is better for music, so I can switch the idea that it's related to. There's also a media tab like normal, so just drag and drop images, etc. And there's a history tab, so as activity takes place, it just gets added in here, so you can see who's done what. But the real beauty of this is that these tasks can then be put into a Kanban style board. So I click this icon up here and you can see a board. You can click on a task and it gives you a bit more information, and then just click again and it'll disappear. The nice thing is that it tells you things like its type of task, so it's a new feature and this is related to the music idea. And then you can just literally drag and drop it into your board and you can see what's going on. In true Blue Peter style, here's one I did earlier. So you can see here I've got a lot more tasks in my board. We also have sprints, so you can see here this is my first sprint. If I click the plus sprint here, I can create a new one and I can call this second sprint. You can change the dates if you want to. That by default is today's date, so I can change this instead of being the 31st, I can make it, I don't know, 11th of September. No, that's a bad date, 23rd of September. And then if you have you know how many hours work you have within your team, you can give it a maximum. So let's say 500. So what we do is we add up the estimates of all the tasks and make sure that you're not going to exceed that. There's an active sprint box, but because this is going to be a future one, I'm not going to tick that. So I just click create, and you can see there's a new task here, a new sprint here called second sprint. I can easily move tasks around. So at the moment I've got one here saying send email contact list to ask for speakers. So I can drag this and maybe we'll do that in our next sprint. So the idea is you can sort of plan ahead and you can see what's going on. Once a task is ready to move on, you just literally drag and drop it. So by default it's in non-started. You can then move it over into in progress, and then maybe this is ready to test, so I move it over, and then someone else will test it and they'll say yes, it's passed, so it goes into completed, or maybe it's something not quite right, so it goes into failed, like so. And again, that all builds up in history. As I said before, everything is configurable. So if you go to the settings icon here, these are the statuses, so these are the columns. So maybe we don't complete things. Maybe this is for a blog. So instead of saying completed, we can say published. And we can also add a new status. So maybe this is going to be ready for editor, something like that. You can change the order. We have a maximum of 6 because if you have more than that, you really just run out of space on the screen, and you're better off trying to define your various statuses more compactly rather than add more and more. Otherwise, you just get lots of scrolling. The only one of these you can't delete is the completed, although as you can see, I've just been able to rename it, and that's because we keep track of when a task is completed, so we need to have that status. We also have priorities. So we have nuclear because I think it's funny, like I said before, high, medium and low, and then rainy day. I can have another one called never going to happen, because quite frankly, if you're not going to do it on a rainy day, when are you going to do it? You can change the colours, so maybe that is going to be a sort of goldy colour. You know, we've got that up there. Let's go with purple. There you go. So I've changed the colour. And then let's say we have task types. So for a conference, I've done people, financial, communication, content and general. But let's say I wanted to change that to money, I can do. And again, you can add new task types. The other thing that we've got here is color change. So the idea is that when you're doing your planning, you want to have an estimate in there so you can work out how much work there is to do. If you want to know when a task hasn't got an estimate, we can change that color to pink. So there's 3 options. One is you ignore this and you never show that. The other is you only show the color when it's in the sprint. And the final one is you always show the color. So at the moment, I think it's color for sprints only. So let's see how that works. So you can see over here, we've got a setup Eventbrite page. If I move this over, it goes pink because there's no estimate in there. If I go back to my settings, I say no color change and go back, you'll see that it's white. And one more time, if I say color for sprint and backlog and go back, you see this task over here is also pink because that hasn't got an estimate. This is just a really handy visual clue when you're planning. Personally, I prefer it when you leave them white in the backlog because at that stage they're kind of markers, you haven't scheduled them. But as soon as you put it into a sprint, I feel like you should have an estimate, and it's a really good visual clue to know that there's one missing. We also have a burn down chart, so you can click on this icon. This shows you the total amount of work to do. So it adds up all the estimates, and that's the blue bar. This is day 1, so there's obviously not much happened, so I've only just created this. But the idea is that this red line is the ideal path. So if people on the team on a daily basis just update their tasks, say there's only 2 hours remaining now rather than 10 or something like that, the blue bars will come down, and it gives you a really good visual way of seeing how the project is progressing. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully it's something that's useful. We've been using it ourselves internally for 6 months before releasing it. We find it incredibly useful, and I hope that you do too. Thank you very much.